Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Big Apple Hockey. It is great to have you guys back with us because it's always great doing the show. But I mean, now we're talking about NHL games, no matter how miserable they could be for the New York teams. But fortunately, I, of course, am your host, Mark Williams, who is delighted to have back Mr. Anthony LaRocco from the Hockey News.
Ugly game last night. It was very ugly. So I mean, I really don't have anything else to say.
I don't even know if ugly is the best word, but a guy that's going to give us more descriptions and other thoughts around the league from Full Press NHL, Mr. Jim Biringer.
What's up, guys? Always a pleasure to be here. Yeah, ugly, beat down. Did anybody actually care about it outside the two fan bases? In years past, people cared. Now, did anybody else care? Probably not. More games on the docket. But you go from the high of best on best back to NHL regular season hockey, and it's a major drop off.
Well, yeah.
It's a major drop off.
I think another matter that makes it a lot worse about last night, when you kind of think about it and just say, yeah, was it really a good game for either team? Like, that was probably the ugliest 5-1 game I've ever seen for both sides. But we're going to get more into that and a lot more. We're going to go into the A block, everybody. Where it's powered by SeatGeek. Yeah, as Josh is saying right there, even if we win, we lose. By the way, once again, just want to congratulate Killjoy, who got here first. I guess Kilroy, Mr. Roboto was going through my head for a second. Anyway, look up that song, everybody. Big Apple Hockey brought to you by SeatGeek. The promo code Big Apple Hockey, $20 off your first order. And don't forget, Big Apple Hockey trucker shirts and available are in the link down below. Wow, my brain is just scrambled because I'm trying to go as fast as I can so that way we can get to this, guys. Because this week, I should say, the Rangers 2-1. I mean, can you really be excited about the two Ranger wins and that one loss? Jeez, they were down 5-0 to Buffalo after the first period. Islanders 0-2, and they've lost 4 straight since winning 8 of 9 before the Four Nations tournament break. Anthony, I'm going to flash their last 10 for both teams. You don't get more mid than 5-5, and both of them are that. What are the ramifications of last night's game? Anthony.
Say it again, Mark.
What are the ramifications of last night's game for both teams?
I mean, both teams needed the points. So obviously for the Islanders, it was a tough loss. But let's not mistake anything here. You know, the Rangers came away with the 2 points. But the Rangers are a bad hockey team too. And I alluded to it on my tweet. They got absolutely destroyed by Buffalo. And while they won their next 2 games, look how they won. I mean, they got outshot horribly. And they won those 2 games because the goaltenders they faced, Yoel Blomqvist in the Pittsburgh game and Ilya Sorokin last night, weren't good. So it was a matter of just both teams being bad, and the Rangers won the game because the Islanders weren't getting goaltending. Sorokin was bad. There's no else to put it. He wasn't fighting through the screens. And the Rangers were just beating him with getting bodies to the front, net front traffic, making his life difficult. And the pucks, found their way in the net. But when you look at these two teams, the Islanders are 7 points out of a playoff spot now. So doesn't look good. But you saw last year at this time, they were 5 points out and they went on an absolute heater in March and got in. But needless to say, will that repeat itself for really the 3rd year in a row? I don't know. Probably not looking good. I'll say no. And for the Rangers, in the Rangers aspect, they got a 35% chance of making the playoffs, and Adam Fox is going to be out for the majority of the year. They said that he'll probably be available for the last 2 weeks of their seasons or so. So I know he hasn't been the best this year, but he's still their number one defenseman, and him being out now is going to leave a huge hole on their back end. So I think, for the Rangers, and I know Evan has and Core have both kind of referenced it in their timelines. Chris Drury has to sell. You sell at the deadline if you're him, because even if you get in the playoffs, your team doesn't have it this year. And yeah, I know the Panthers a couple of years ago, 8th seed, they went all the way, but the Rangers that's not going to happen with the Rangers, So I think, for both teams, it's not looking very good. They should probably both sell, but we know one of the general managers, and Lou Lamoriello, doesn't believe in that word, so I don't think it will happen. But I think Chris Drury and the Rangers should still sell. So I guess overall, what I'm trying to say is, I don't, last night's game, I don't really think it means much in the grand scheme of things. Both teams have their host of issues, and if you saw how the Rangers played in their last 2 wins, you could really see that they have significant issues, even though they won 2 games in a row. But last night overall, it was an ugly game for both teams. Rangers got heavily outplayed, weren't really good defensively, and the Islanders got bad goaltending. So it was one of those games where you just burn the tape.
Yeah, and Jim, I'm still trying to figure out the headline from this game, to be honest with you, because Anthony hit it right there. It's not like the Rangers really played that well to be excited about it.
No, absolutely not. If you look at it, this is what's been the Rangers' MO now for the last couple of years. Even go back to when Lundqvist was there, right? Get outshot, get timely goals, and win games. That's what the Rangers have pretty much been their MO for a long time now. But when they've taken it to teams, you can see how good they are. But it's funny, right? Ever since, and this is the one thing I've been noticing, when JT Miller got there, Zibanejad's now on the wing. Maybe that's where he belongs, right? You have JT Miller, and I think that's the positive you take out of it. JT Miller's there, Zibanejad's at the wing. He doesn't have to play center anymore. You have a guy that's given Zibanejad less responsibilities, and he can get back to focusing on his game and be a winger. On the Islanders side of things, you have 6 minutes of more possession time than the other team, and you just got goalied. And they probably should have won the game based on possession time and statistics and all that, but they didn't. Anthony hit the nail on the head. Sorokin was awful. He gave up so many goals that he normally stops because they had traffic in front. Yeah. The Rangers' fourth line, I was highly critical of them putting Brendan Hoffman on that fourth line, because I'm like, here we go again, same mistake, putting a kid if they don't succeed. All right, maybe I was putting the cart before the horse, but still, they got some goals that went in that probably shouldn't have gone in. And you look at it, you're like, all right, well, if you're Chris Drury, you're like, well, am I really gonna be an active buyer here when I know teams will want players that I have? Like Ryan Lindgren is a good depth defenseman for somebody. You can move him. You can move him and his salary out of town. Could a guy like Keandre Miller be a guy that teams could want? You get something for him. You got to look at it, and I agree. I think both teams should sell. I know the Islanders won't because, Lou Lamoriello doesn't do it. He doesn't do it. He should have sold. After they went back to back-to-back conference finals, they should have reset and been like, all right, we need to figure out how we're going to get younger. But no, we're going to get older. And I think the one guy we keep would be Rock Nelson. I think Kyle Palmieri, you trade. Pajot, you trade. But not going to happen because, we're 7 points out. Anything can happen. Okay, you get in and you lose in the first round again. Big deal. Mm-hmm. So what? You get the playoff revenue. Big deal. But they have players teams want, but Lamoriello's not going to do it. I think if Drury gets the right offers for some of these guys, I think he can pull the trigger, and I absolutely think the Rangers should sell.
I think last night is fool's gold for the Rangers, and it's almost good news for the Islanders, but like you guys said, they're not going to sell. And they really need to. You need to sell off Kyle Palmieri. You need to recoup some assets. Brock Nelson is the number one guy on many trade boards. Move him. As much as the Islanders should have learned from the John Tavares thing, and which they did. Great tweet, by the way, by my associate right over here. I'll share that in a second, about how Brock Nelson saw all the different ramifications of his friends that left whether it was Tavares or Kyle Pozo or even Franz Nielsen, who never played another playoff game ever again after leaving the New York Islanders, or Matt Martin, who came back almost as soon as he could. It's just when you look at that, the Islanders need to sell. They need to come up with a blueprint and a new plan. And the 7-game win streak that they had before the Four Nations was just a run. That's just all it was. Now, for every Ranger fan that wants to sit back and go, no, they can springboard this now. No. First off, by the way, let's go back to this bit of news that just happened. You lost Adam Fox for at least 2 weeks, and they're expecting him back towards the end of the season. Status is unknown on Keandre Miller. Mika Zibanejad played a shift on defense last night. Credit to Mika Zibanejad. The Rangers are going nowhere without Adam Fox. Let's make that perfectly clear. And then on the other hand, everybody wants to say how terrible that Ilya Sorokin was. His numbers for the season are still better than Igor Shesterkin's, and he's not getting paid $11.5 million next year. It's a joke right now as far as that goes. So, first off, I had it slated to say, does this make the Islanders sellers? But I guess the other question is, should the Rangers be buyers? And the answer is no, don't, especially not with the situation that you have right now on defense. The question is, how much can you sell right now? And we've been saying this for a while. All this positivity some fans might have, they're trying to correct a lot of problems. They're trying to change their identity. You can't do this on the fly. And Mika Zibanejad beat an $8.5 million wing when he was signed to be a franchise #1 center. That is actually very bad. And when people are going, well, you got JT Miller now. Okay. So what? Just Mika Zibanejad, you got to still figure out your game. So I'll just leave it at that. It's my frustration that just makes me lose my point. But
no, I hear your point, though, because that was the point I was trying to make a few weeks back before the Miller trade went down with a lot of people on the Devils fan base. Is like, oh, well, we need Miller. Okay, that's great. You're going to pay him, what, $8 million to play the wing? You're going to pay him $8 million to be third-line center? Here's the issue is you actually found somebody that can finally play with Zibanejad, but Zibanejad has to move off playing center to do it.
Yeah.
And yes, you wish he was making less money, so it's like, all right, whatever. But his game has upticked since Miller's gotten there, and that's a positive, but it's still – he should have been a lot longer, further along in the process, and didn't need a kick in the butt by JT Miller to do it.
Yeah. So we're going to talk more about the trade deadline and possible moves that could be made on a couple different things. Anthony, I had a different number about the Rangers making the playoffs from Money Puck. I'll share that with you later, but it's not much higher than what you're saying because it's still not.
I got it from Athletic and Dom. His percentages. Yeah, the range of 35%.
All right. So when I cite the Money Puck one later, it's because it's a different one, different site. Guys, let's go to some other headlines that are all around the league right now. Let's go to one that I guess a guy's getting chirped for absolutely no reason. Matt Tkachuk was on Jimmy Fallon and really showing off his personality, showing off the NHL, talking about the Four Nations. Anthony, you got fans that are then going, shouldn't he be in rehab? Shouldn't he be doing this? Shouldn't he be doing that? Like, we're trying to grow the game, right?
Yeah, no, that's just because he's injured doesn't mean he can't do a media spot. He's not going to be training 24/7, so that's ridiculous. But no, I mean, it's good for the game that he was on Jimmy Fallon. That's big. Gets more eyes on the game, and obviously the Four Nations tournament played a role in that, and hopefully the NHL can continue this momentum. But Tkachuk, while he's not the best, he's far from the best player in the league. He's not like McDavid and McKinnon. The thing is, Matt Tkachuk has personality, something that McDavid and McKinnon, they don't really have much of, to be honest with you. The Tkachuk brothers are they just have it. Not every athlete has that it factor, and when it comes to markability and being able to do those things like going on the Tonight Show, Matt Tkachuk has that outgoing personality. He's funny. He's not afraid to say what's on his mind. He's just the best way I could put it is he's just like he's a bro. I mean, Matt Tkachuk is a guy like, if you want to go out for a bachelor party, you want Matt Tkachuk and Brady Tkachuk there. I mean, they're like, seem like they would be one hell of a time. So, it's good that he's getting out in front of the camera and helping to promote the game. So I loved it. I think the Tkachuk brothers kind of had their coming out party in this Four Nations tournament when it comes to casual fans. They were at the forefront. And how could you not love them? I mean, they hit, they're talented, they could score, they get under your skin. And they're proud Americans. So I absolutely love to see it.
Yeah, Jim, this is hockey fans talking out of both sides of their mouths right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I mean, everybody wants more growth in the game, grow the game. But we don't like it when a guy goes on Jimmy Fallon because, he's hurt and, he's got to be with his team and this and that. They had to go to Nashville for one day, and then they're back in Florida. Like, I think it's okay that he went on the Tonight Show to promote the game. It's actually really smart marketing that it happened because you're taking advantage of what happened with the viewership that you got last week on ESPN with the Four Nations tournament. I mean, these two guys were on the Kelsey Brothers podcast. I mean, you're getting more exposure to the game. You're going to get more eyeballs to the game. That's what you want. That's how you grow the game. It's not always about the game itself on the ice. It's about the promotion and guys willing to do stuff like that. Remember, Wayne grew the game in California, not just because he was a great player, but he did all the media stuff along with it out in LA to grow the game. He was at Lakers games. He was doing a bunch of stuff. Like, that's how you grow the game. And the Tkachuk, Matthew Tkachuk is great. His personality is awesome. The interviews that these guys do, the answers that they give are just great. And we need more personality like that in the game, and that's how you're going to be able to grow it and take advantage of it. I have zero problem with it. We know if he was able to play, he probably doesn't do it, but we know he's going to be out a little bit because of the injury that I sustained. So I have zero problem with it, and I know his teammates probably didn't have any problem with it either.
Yeah, this is just fans' jealousy right now.
Yeah.
It's the best way to say it. Look, first off, Matt Tkachuk is on your team. You're going to be happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
If for that matter, yeah, it was quite the coming out party for him and Brady Tkachuk. They were all over Twitter, Instagram, everything. And then on top of it, to be on Jason Kelsey's or the Kelsey Brothers podcast, where I was citing Jason Kelsey specifically because he's the one that says the Stanley Cup is the greatest trophy. He's the one that really will talk a lot more hockey than his brother will. And it's a lot of get off my lawn complaining. And something, it's we always complain, why isn't hockey more popular? Why can't we grow the game? Well, because especially star players, you're kind of like trained to not show your personality too much. That's why you got these planks of wood sometimes, whether or not they really are or they're not, like Connor McDavid, Sidney Crosby, Wayne Gretzky. I mean, he was trying to avoid being controversial as possible. Let's say, who's to say that Brendan Shanahan or maybe even Brad Marchand couldn't have hosted Saturday Night Live? Because that's the amount of personality that Matt Tkachuk has, and it would be great to see the NHL at least let their players be a little bit more, I guess, personable. No, that's the wrong word, but just showing their attitude, showing everything. That's what makes them great. Guys, let's go to 3 hits that happened, and I believe all 3 of them were on Sunday. But these were 3 hits that all got major penalties. Let's just get that banner off and go right back. All right, here we go. Starting with Casey Cizikas. So, Anthony, I'm going to start with you on this one. Which ones did the NHL get right here? Cizikas got a major penalty. Rampy was called for a major, reduced to 2 minutes. And then it was Trevor Zegras who hit Rasmussen, and really the blindside hit, but he wasn't called, but he was suspended for 3 games.
The worst hit of them all was by far the Zegras hit. I mean, that was blatant elbow to the head. He deserved the suspension. No call on the ice, though. You said that was the
No call on the
strangest
ice.
part of it, because that was the most obvious. Like that deserved the suspension. And that was a clear hit to the head. The Casey Zizekas hit, that was an embarrassment. That was as clean of a body check as you can get. And the fact that there was no supplemental discipline by the NHL tells you that they got that wrong. Because if it was, he got a 5-minute major, he would have been suspended too if it really was not a clean check. And it absolutely was a clean check to the head. Should not have been a 5-minute major. I don't know what those referees were thinking. And the Matt Rempe hit, I think they got it right by switching it to a minor. I know Rempe has I mean, honestly, I think his reputation is what got it the 5 minutes to begin with. And then when they looked at it and reviewed it, they saw that, okay, well, it's only worthy of a 2-minute penalty. But yeah, the Zegras hit was the worst of them all. He deserved the 3-game suspension, and he should have been called for a 5-minute major on the ice too. So the NHL got that wrong. They got the Zizekas hit wrong. The only thing they got right was the Matt Rempe changing it to a minor.
Yeah, Jim, what do you think about those hits?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm surprised that the one on Zegras didn't get called on the ice, to be honest. Like, I don't know how 4 guys missed that, but I guess there's a lot going on. But the 3-game suspension, I guess, the Department of Player Safety comes back and looks at it and says, all right, we missed it on the ice, but we're suspending you because we don't like those hits. Should he have gotten an in-person hearing? Probably. He just got a phone hearing. Okay, that's fine. Should he have gotten 3 games? 3 games is fine with me. First offense. I have no problem with it. So they ended up getting it right. They probably should have called it right on the ice, and they didn't do it. I agree with Anthony. The Zizekas hit completely wrong. To me, it's not even a penalty. You want to give him 2 minutes for interference, fine. I wouldn't have had a problem with that. But even then, the puck was there. So, but the penalty itself to Zizekas, 5-minute major, no way. And the NHL got it right. The referees went in. This is the point. This is the whole point. This is why the double IHF does this at the World Championships, World Juniors. You look at a 5-minute major, you can reduce it. This is why they brought that in. Because of plays like this. Because when I initially saw the hit, I was like, 2 minutes for boarding. Probably that's what's going to be. That's what they ended up reducing it to. I agree with Anthony. And the first thing that came into my head when I saw it was 5-minute major at first, was a reputation call on Rempe, because, we know what his history's been. Like, he knocks somebody out of the game, he gets automatically thrown out. But to me, it's probably just a 2-minute major, 2-minute minor for boarding, and they got it right there. In the end, the NHL got the Zegras thing right. They probably should have got it right on the ice to begin with, but didn't. And they did get it right with Rempe, and that was an absolute horrible miss and a horrible fumble on the Zizekas hit.
I'm torn a little bit on trying to give Department of Player Safety any credit. I always say that they can't even pronounce safety because they're so clueless. When I look at the hits, let's start with the Rempe one. The Rempe one, I think if that name on the back was Johnson or Smith, I'm not sure if he even gets called for a penalty at all. Never mind a 5-minute major at first. Yeah, they looked at it, and yeah, I do agree. I would have given him a boarding. Yeah. But one problem I have kind of on this, and follow my analogy, guys, it's sort of like when we started putting face cages on kids, and then when you grow up and go to the NHL, high sticking was more prevalent. Now, I think people are getting into situations where they're putting their head down, because that's really what happened with Matt Grzelcyk. Matt Grzelcyk's head was down when Rempe hit him. That, I think it would have been a little bit more of a normal check, because he doesn't get him on the numbers. He gets him on the side. Let's go to the Zizekas one, because when I think, Anthony, and you'll agree with me, when I think of dirty players in the NHL, I think Casey Zizekas. Sarcasm, everybody. Sarcasm on that one. Just in case. But, I mean, that's a hit. That's a hit of 2 guys going for the puck.
Mm.
And that's a defenseman that he's looking at the puck. He's got his head down. I don't look, and I know Zizekas comes up when he goes with the hip, but that's in slow motion. And also, Zizekas is a much smaller guy, so of course he's going to have to come up a little bit. I don't think he was targeting the head. Zegras, on the other hand, Zegras was the obvious one. That's the one that should have been called. Refs, like we said before. I want to know what his injury history, what his suspension, history is. But on the other hand, you got to throw a hard suspension at him because you got to get that hit out of the game. You can't have that hit going on for too long. And let's go to one before we go.
I got just one thing. The thing is with the Zegras thing, you just gave Ryan Hartman 10 games that got reduced to 8 for giving a guy a DDT on the ice. Like you had to throw 3 games at Zegras for literally hitting a guy in the face with his elbow.
Yeah,
Jim, let's stick to that. Why'd they reduce it?
Because Gary Bettman didn't like the wording in the argument. There was an argument by the NHLPA that said I gotta find it and look it up, but Gary Bettman was like, yeah, the NHLPA made a great case. It's going to get reduced by 2 games to 8. By the way, he still served 10 games, if you think about it. The appeal, he was still out for a couple of games. So he still served 10 games. He's now it just says 8 games on the book.
And he still got paid for that, right?
But the 2 games, he's getting 2 paychecks back. He's getting 2 games back in his pay. But the other 8 games, he's not getting paid.
Which, Anthony, I always love hearing stuff like that because you get the guys that are like, oh, why'd you give him 10 games? I mean, you should reduce it down to 8. What about the guy whose head he smashed in the ice?
Yeah.
I represent them both.
Yep. Well, I thought the initial call of 10 was good because the guy literally just gave him a DDT on the ice. Legitimately gave him Stützle a DDT on the ice.
Yeah, and thank you for reminding me who it was because I blanked for a second. Yeah, it was Tim Stützle. Isn't he a star of a team that's making a ton of money? Don't you want to protect those people? Yes. I mean, and other little things like trying to remember. Oh, it was Quinn Hughes took a stick to the face. A video I saw of Connor McDavid the other day hitting him. But so it's just like, guys, you got to cut out the nonsense as far as that goes. Let's go to the star of the Washington Capitals and the one that has been there for almost 2 decades now, Alexander Ovechkin. 12 goals shy of breaking Wayne Gretzky's
time.
Oh, what?
Me and Jim just did this literally at the same time. We both did the same reaction. That was funny.
You're making me cough from laughing on that one, guys. But yeah, I when I heard the noise, I didn't know it was in unison because I was reading this off.
Yeah.
But Alex Ovechkin sits 12 goals away from breaking Wayne Gretzky's goal record. I mean, Jim, we'll start with you on this one. First, your thoughts on the season that Alexander Ovechkin's having, and secondly, just when's he going to do it?
I mean, this is remarkable, right? Guy comes in better shape, right? And last year he ended the season great, and everybody's like, "Oh, it should carry over," right? He had 32 goals in the last 28 games, something like that, coming out of the break, and then he just starts on a tear, and he comes out of 4 Nations, gets not in the first game, and then the second game he gets a hat trick. He has 4 goals in the last 2 games, and you're like, this guy's unstoppable right now. It's just remarkable because at the beginning of last year, before we hit the All-Star break, you're like, there's no way it's going to happen next year. Yeah. Probably going to be a little bit longer. It's going to wait, but it's still doable. Maybe it's not. The Caps are winning. The Caps are a good team. They're having fun. He's having fun. And he's scoring in his kitchen still. It doesn't matter. Put him out on the power play. From the circle, he's still scoring. No matter what you do, he's still putting the puck in the net. And I want to hear about empty net goals and this and that. The fact of the matter is, he will break Wayne Gretzky's record. I think it's going to be April, in the beginning of April, I think he does it.
Yeah.
Anthony, give me your game that you think he's going to do it. And also your thoughts on the grade 8 right now.
Well, first, he's he has been one of my favorite players in the league ever since he came into the league. He was just so dynamic. He was just fun to watch. And I don't know if you could see it, but I wear the number 8 around my neck. It's my number, and I started wearing it when he came into the league. So that inspired me to change my number because I just love the way he played hockey. So yeah, he's amazing. He's been amazing to watch ever since he came into the league. And this is a guy that people have doubted him. He's slowing down, and how he ended the season last year, as Jim said, that won't carry over. And could he be washed? And guys, I want everyone to kind of grasp this. He's 39 years old, and he's averaging like 0.70 goals per game. And this is coming from someone who broke his leg and missed 16 games. Like, it's just not normal. As you get older, clearly you slow down. I can understand, this happening to a 24-year-old. He comes back and, he doesn't miss a beat, but he was so hot before the injury. Everyone's like, oh, well, this is going to slow him down. This is going to derail his chance to break it this season. But no, he just comes back and he picks up where he left off. It doesn't even make sense. And, John Butchergross makes jokes about this every now and then. It's like, the guy has been seen like carrying Doritos bags, Subway, drinking Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and he's still just a freak of nature. Like, I don't understand it. Like, a Russian machine never break. I don't know what it is, what his secret is, but he's absurd, and I can't wait to see him break the record, and we can all witness history. As for when he does it, they're saying that he's on pace to do it April 4th against Chicago. So I could take the easy way out and say he does it there. But my guess is that he does it on the island, April 6th at UBS. He's tormented the Islanders for a large portion of his career. So how fitting would it be for him to do it in New York? And if you look on StubHub, there's a reason why tickets to that game, the prices are up there, because I think even if you're not an Islander fan, you want to be there to potentially witness history. So I know I'm going to try to get there for that game and see that. But that's my prediction. But also, who knows? Like, the guy can rattle off a hat trick next game again, and then that projection from April 4th will will drop into even earlier in April and the end of March. So, but yeah. I definitely think he's doing it. And, lastly, before I hand it over to you, Mark, just think, if he didn't break his leg and miss 16 games, he might have already have the record. I mean, that's 16 games where he was out. So if he doesn't get hurt, he may already be the all-time goal leader by now, which is just amazing. It's amazing.
It is fascinating, by the way, that
yeah.
It is fascinating how Wayne Gretzky's been cheering for him to potentially break the record for over 2 years now. But it's also fascinating how he keeps in shape, because after all, he's in the Phil Kessel School of Conditioning. But you look at what he's done. I've said this for a while. When his legs go, he's just going to be Brett Hull. And Brett Hull was basically find the spot, shoot. And he's the greatest goal scorer probably ever to play this game. He is one of those personalities I'm saying the NHL needs to show off. Unfortunately, right now, it's not exactly the country that's getting all the press, or a good press for that matter, that he's from. But Ovechkin, I think he's going to break the record. I don't think he's going to wait till April, guys. I'll say March 30th against the Buffalo Sabres. He's going to go. You're talking about teams he tormented, Anthony. He's going through Ottawa, the Rangers. He's got a bit of a history with them. And then the Detroit Red Wings after that. And that's just this week. And the Capitals, Jim, thanks for putting it in the first part of all this this analysis that we're doing. But they're winning. They're doing this. They're not doing this as like a sideshow. They're doing this because they're trying to win games. They got 84 points. They're way clear of second place, Carolina and New Jersey. And right now, Spencer Carper, he's got that focus about trying to win again. Imagine if that's the script for the end of the year. He ends up breaking Wayne Gretzky's record, grabs the Stanley Cup, maybe another Conn Smythe, and then just retires. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's got enough in him to try to go for 1,000. Really quick, guys, yes or no, is he the greatest goal scorer of all time, in your opinion?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it sounds like it's a question that you have to go, nah, I don't know about that. But, I mean, he is going to pass a guy that had 894 goals. Nobody ever uses him as the greatest goal scorer of all time. even with the most goals in a single season. And then you also have like other guys that had their careers cut short, like of course the great Mike Bossy of the New York Islanders.
Well, I just want to. You're telling me that either the Senators or the Red Wings would beat the Capitals in round one? No, sorry.
No.
I mean, it's fair. I respect opinions, and it's fair if you want to say, maybe they overachieved, and maybe they don't. They don't go very far, but there's no shot in hell the Capitals would lose to the Senators or the Red Wings or the Bruins if they got in the first round. It's just,
or the Rangers.
Yeah, it's just not happening. It's not happening.
You saw what happened last year. Washington got in, but they had a minus 31 goal differential, got swept by the Rangers, and the point differential was just as much as it is now with Ottawa. I don't see, unless Ottawa has the second coming of Yaroslav Halak and of the 2010 Montreal Canadiens, I don't see the Washington Capitals losing to Detroit or Ottawa in the first round of the playoffs. I think this team is too focused, and they have too much depth now, and they're a different team than they were back in those 2010 when Bruce Boudreau was there. I think they know how to play defense now, and they just don't rely on certain guys to win them games.
Yeah. Like this comment right here would apply to last year. I mean, last year they had a negative goal differential. They were a shell of a playoff team. It was a joke, quite frankly. But this year they're the best team in the NHL. How are you saying they shouldn't be there? I mean, they're literally the best team in the National Hockey League. I think it's time to give some love to the Caps. And this is coming from a guy, and Jim, we talked about this in the beginning of the year. I doubted them. Like, they're going to fall off. In the off season, I said, no, they're on the downhill. No, you got to give props what props are due. I mean, they made me eat crow. The Capitals are a legitimate team. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to win the Stanley Cup, but they're not going to lose in the first round. I could tell you that they're going to win a round.
Absolutely not. I mean, look, I had them as a playoff team just because I knew what they could do inside this division. I didn't even think they were going to be this good. Like, I thought, all right, they're going to be maybe third. They could be first wild card one because they know how to win in the division. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. Did I even see this? Absolutely not. No chance. Like, for me, no way. But I don't know if they'll win a Stanley Cup, but I do not see them losing in the first round of the playoffs. Absolutely not.
Yeah, and as Joe Graves is saying right here, Capitals sold at the deadline. And Anthony, sorry, you were in the middle of making your point. I was trying to add to you. But it was like literally they shouldn't have been there because John Tortorella pulled the goaltender when the game was tied last year, and because he needed the points, couldn't give it to the Capitals. Little did he know Detroit basically already eliminated them. But yeah, the guys are a little bit young. It's going to be on Logan Thompson, but then again, you look at that series last year between Logan Thompson and the Dallas Stars. Vegas did not lose that series because of Logan Thompson. So it's just a matter of, can a lot of these guys that are having career best seasons keep it up? And you know what? I think they can. And you got
Jacob Chikrin on the back end too. That's been a difference maker for them this year.
Yeah. And by the way, Anthony, John Radigan hit the nail on the head with this one. PLD winning the Conn Smythe and dedicating the locker room Ebola at his best. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break from DraftKings and then come back with some NHL bar talk. Hockey fans light the lamp this winter with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. New customers can bet just $5 pregame money line on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use promo code THPN. Bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game and get $150 in free bets if they do. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook with code THPN.
Shot. This is the easiest I've ever had to answer.
going to say beer. I can't even begin to describe.
I'm actually going to go crazy. I'm going to buy everybody around on this one. And welcome back, everybody, to Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk, where we're gauging our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. You're so confident that you're buying around. So, I love a beer. Oh, God, I need a shot. Play along down in the comments down below, and also suggest a topic. Maybe Anthony will actually select that for you. All right. And as I cited before, guys, and as Anthony mentioned in the beginning, he said the Athletic is saying the Rangers have a 35% chance of making the playoffs. Money Puck listed them at 43.4% chance of making the playoffs. Although, of course, I looked that up, Anthony, before Adam Fox went on IR. And just a reminder, our trade deadline special is going to be next Friday, going to be at noon, unless something major breaks, and we could go on before that. But Chris Drury and the Rangers should be sellers at the deadline. I'll start with Jim on this one.
Round, 100% round. Like I said it before. I'll say it again. You need to sell assets at this point. I don't think you're making the playoffs. Look, yeah, you had back-to-back wins, big deal.
Get the hoop.
But yeah, exactly. Get the hoop. Like, just put it out right now.
Actually, I can't get the hoop right now because that's in storage because I'm moving.
Okay, well, anyway, the hoop's out there. But seriously, it's slam dunk. You sell. You have assets to sell. You have players teams are going to want at the deadline. I don't care that you won 2 games. You won 2. You beat a Penguins team that's not making the playoffs. You got crushed by a Buffalo team that's at the bottom of the standings. Yeah. And you beat an Islanders team that didn't get goaltending. No, you got to move out these players. You're not making the playoffs, and you just look ahead towards next year and get assets.
Anthony?
Yeah, you gotta sell. It's like everyone else is saying. It's around. And I'm not even gonna go based on the loss to Buffalo. And how really heavily outplayed they got in their most recent 2 wins. But just all season long, they were up, they were down, they were horrendous for a while. They won a couple of games in a row. It's just they're not a very good team, which is crazy to think because, again, no one would have ever said that before the season started. And now that Adam Fox is going to miss, a large chunk here, and Keandre Miller's out, I just don't see any realistic path of how this should go any different for Chris Drury and the New York Rangers. You have Ryan Lindgren, who you're not going to bring back. So you're not bringing them back. Why not move him? Get something for him. Even a guy like Riley Smith, he's not going to move him. Even though it's an insignificant return, move Jimmy Vesey. Move anybody you can to give yourself the best situation possible to head into the offseason with. Even trade Chris Kreider. Trade him. He's getting older. He's had a bad year. This could be a warning sign. It could be a warning sign of the decline is coming. Move him now if you can. Get some assets back. So I think those are all things that Chris Drury has to look at. Now, he's not going to be able to move Zibanejad right now at this point in time with his contract. Obviously, Panarin's fantasy talk, even though I think, the guy is soft and you're not going to win with him. That's not a move that happens in the season. They're not trading Igor Shesterkin, even though everyone thinks that the contract was a mistake. That's not happening either.
Oh, yeah, that's an easy one.
Yeah, there's obviously the discontent with Alexis Lafreniere. He looked like he was taking a step last year, and now this year it looked like he reverted to the Lafreniere of old, especially after getting the bag, which is disappointing. He's disappeared. But that's another guy. That's not a trade you're going to make at this point, but you can still move those other guys, Lindgren, Smith, maybe Kreider. And I think the Rangers need to do that, regroup, and come back strong next year because I see no reason why they can't pull the Washington Capitals, come back and be a good team again next year. But only if Chris Drury starts making the right moves now, and that is sell, sell, sell.
They have the Toronto Maple Leafs on Friday night. They have Nashville on Sunday the 2nd. Then it's going to be the Islanders again on Monday, and then they get to the Washington Capitals on the 5th. That'll be before the trade deadline. The Rangers realistically could go 2-2. It's fool's gold. Yes, and as everybody's saying, the decline's right here, guys. It's an easy hat trick for us.
Exactly.
I got to put it on right here. It's there because again, we mentioned it in the A block, but Chris Drury's trying to change the identity of this team. Whether or not he should be the guy to do it anymore, that's a good question too. But let's not kid ourselves. They also won because, as we said before, Ilya Sorokin was not really great last night, to say the least. And then Joel Blomqvist was not good at all on Sunday. The Rangers need to get out of this thinking that this team is one player away, because I can't find that player that they're one player away from right now. And Panarin, I don't think you can move on from him, but he has not looked good since the Miller trade. Zibanejad, obviously you're stuck with him. Kreider, you might be able to move. Now, is it going to be a good trade? I don't know. We'll see about that there in the draft. Everyone else, if they're not nailed down to the floor, get them the hell out, because the Rangers gave up so much already. They have no assets to go acquire a player. They need to start gathering assets. And anybody that thinks that there's going to be a parade in June, I'm sorry, you're delusional. Speaking about teams that should be selling right now, New York Islanders 7 points behind the Columbus Blue Jackets. More on them in a second. And they have 5 UFAs on their roster, 6 RFAs on their roster. Anthony, because it's your beat, I had to go to you first on this. Lou Lamoriello will not make a single trade by the trade deadline.
Painfully, Mark Williams, I'm going to say, round. I think Lou's not going to do anything. I know Islander fans don't want to hear that, but I don't think he's going to do anything right now. I believe that, he should sell, but as we talked about, yeah, Shadow, but Islander fans will riot if he does that. But no, he doesn't sell. He doesn't sell, Mark. He doesn't believe in it. And here's the other thing. He is a guy that is, as we talked about in our group chat, he's not going anywhere. He's only leaving if he steps aside on his own. He's not going anywhere. With the moves he's made in the past, the team is set up to win now with the contracts they have: Barzal, Sorokin, Horvat, all that. So he's not retooling. He's not stripping it down. No one knows what he's thinking, but I think realistically, the thought process with Lou is he believes, like we just referenced the Capitals, with a quick retool in the offseason, he can have the Islanders back into the playoffs next year. So because of that, I think his mindset is, I'm going to re-sign Brock Nelson because we're going to be good again next year. I'm going to re-sign Kyle Palmieri because, again, we're going to compete next year. And I believe that's his mindset. And so, when Nelson and Palmieri are Islanders past the trade deadline and there's no extensions, just keep in mind, Lou didn't do that because he's an idiot. It's because he knows that those guys are going to re-sign, even if they don't have contracts signed yet, or as people say, it's in his draw. So if Nelson and Palmieri are still Islanders after the deadline, it's because Lou Lamoriello knows that they're going to re-sign. And one thing about Lamoriello is he gives players respect, and players respect him. So if those guys gave him his word that they want to stay, he's going to take trust in that, and that's why he's not going to move them. So I don't think he moves any of them. Noah Dobson, I do think he's going to be traded, but I'm starting to think that that's going to be a move that happens in the offseason. With that said, I think that guys like JG Pajot, Pierre Engvall, I think he's going to move those guys in the offseason and use the cap space that he gets from that and the salary cap going up. And he's going to take big runs at Mitch Marner in the offseason or Nikolai Ehlers. and he's going to come back with that squad next year with Nelson, Palmieri, and in his eyes, hopefully a Marner and Ehlers, and he's going to try to get the Islanders back in the playoffs. So sorry for the long-winded answer, but I think that's what's going on there. So Islander fans, don't be surprised, but I don't think he's doing anything.
Jim, we know it's a long answer, and we know you saw the best of Lou. He's not making a single trade, is he?
I was going to go around here, but the fact that it says single trade, I'm going beer because he will make a move, but it may not be the move that we all expect him to make.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair too. Yep.
Yeah.
Like he could be doing something that we have no idea about, right? Because Lou Lamoriello is so guarded, and when you think you know it and you know it's gonna come, it never comes.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he gets wind of it, he's not doing it.
And Jim, I have a feeling that might have happened with Noah Dobson. I think there was so much smoke there.
Exactly.
I have a feeling he axed the deal.
He axed the deal because he axed the deal years with Minnesota. Remember a couple years ago, I think it was Parisi when they were trying to get him at the deadline.
With Andrew Ladd, yeah. Ladd was going to go back the other way, yeah.
Yeah, and then it just died. But I do think he makes a move. That's why I go Pierre. Lamoriello does something at the deadline. He always does something. Whether you agree with it or not, he always makes at least a trade. Like, that's the thing. Like, the word single trade to me, I think that's where it comes. I think he should sell. He should do everything Anthony said. But he won't because he's Lou. But he's done. See, here's the thing. He did all of his stuff in a pre-cap world. Since the cap's been in place, he hasn't been able to manage it and know what to do with it. And that's the issue. If he can get younger and do what the Caps did, great. But the Caps got younger, and they have a couple of old guys. And the guys that were old and had issues are on LTIR. The Islanders don't have that.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of got to go shot on this, guys. I think he might actually make some moves. He might be forced to, because when you have the guy like Brock Nelson, who is very loyal, as I put up with Anthony's tweet just now, and how he's going to be viewed. But if he says the words, I'm going to test free agency, because he's been vastly underpaid by the New York Islanders. And maybe he might think about, let me see what the market's going to give. But he's going to have to move at least either Nelson or Kyle Palmieri, because I don't think he can keep both of them. But Lou's got to think about improving the team. He always says, I'll make a trade if it's going to improve the team. If it's not going to improve the team, then he's not going to do it. Look, there's going to be at least Cole Iserman, who could be a possibility of guys in the near future, maybe not next year. But
here's sorry to cut you off, Mom, but here's one more thing. You just said, Lou doesn't make a trade unless it's going to help the team. I go back to last year when there was trade speculation when the Islanders were a bubble team about Brock Nelson. And the famous quote was Elliot Friedman said an executive had told him that Lou Lamoriello would rather gnaw off his own arm than trade Brock Nelson. So here's the thing with Nelson. Even though he's the highest, he's number one on a lot of trade boards, the teams that are going to be interested in him, like he's been linked to the Winnipeg Jets, for instance. Winnipeg Jets are the best team in the league. Their first round pick is going to be probably higher than 30. And this draft class from picks 15 to 20 on, it's been said to a very weak draft. So I feel like Lou Lamoriello would probably rather keep Brock Nelson than trade him for a 30th overall pick and a B or C prospect. He values Nelson more than that to make that trade. So that alone I don't think he'll trade Brock Nelson. I really don't. I really don't think he'll trade Brock Nelson. Unless Brock Nelson definitively said to him, I want out, I'm not re-signing. And knowing the person that Brock Nelson is, I highly doubt that happened.
Agreed.
So he's not going to trade. He's not going to trade Brock Nelson. I don't think he will. I'll eat crow if I'm wrong. I'll say I'm wrong. You know me, I have no problem doing that. Done it plenty of times, but I don't think he's going to trade Brock Nelson.
And I got to agree with you on that too, because if there's anything we know about Lou, yes, he's also going to probably be one of the more loyal GMs in history. Like he loves his guys.
Mhm.
And I don't think that I don't think it's going to be something that Lou just gives him up willy-nilly. You got to blow him away with an offer. And again, if his good friend Bill Guerin comes calling, maybe you might see something like that. But Wicked saying, give me Brad Lambert and a first from Winnipeg, similar to Minnesota. So, but going to Minnesota, that could be a much better draft pick. All right, let's go to the Metro standings right now, guys, where the Washington Capitals, as I mentioned before, 84 points, way clear of Carolina and New Jersey, who are tied at 70. And I'll also ask you on this one, Jim, because it's your beat, which team you think is going to take second place. But the question is, New Jersey's Tom Fitzgerald needs to make a big move at the deadline.
Round.
Yeah.
He needs to make a big move, and he needs to address the top 6 scoring because it's consistently inconsistent, and it's been an issue since July, and they've needed it since July. Like, Thomas Tatar was your upgrade for offense? No. You needed a scoring winger. You needed somebody that could average what Brock Nelson does a year, which is around 30 goals a season. You had that in Tyler Toffoli. You just didn't want to give him a no-trade, no-move clause and 4 years, which is understandable, similar to what Jonathan Marchessault still got. But to me, their offense, last year, they never got shut out. They've gotten shut out 6-7 times already this season.
Mm-hmm.
They may get goalied against Blackwood again.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
He could get goalied again. But they need a top 6 scoring winger. They also need another center that can win them faceoffs because you just can't rely on 2 guys to do that. So those are the 2 areas. Again, everybody needs depth defenseman. Everybody needs a center. But they need a long-term solution in their top 6 because they just don't have it right now. So to me, it's a round.
Yeah, it's a round for me. I look at the team. You have Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Timo Meyer's been a little underwhelming, Jim. I think Dawson Mercer hasn't had the year that I think Devils fans hoped he'd have. So I certainly think they need another top 6 forward in there. I don't know if it's feasible, Jim, but one of the thing that I kind of look at that Devils team and wonder about. And again, I highly doubt the Hurricanes would make this trade with the Devils because they're neck and neck. So I know maybe it's a little bit of fantasy land. But I wonder if Tom Fitzgerald would have interest in Mikko Rantanen. I know the Hurricanes are probably going to have to trade him because it looks like he's balking at their big extension they're offering him. Even though it may not be a guarantee he'd re-sign there either, I think the Devils need a long run in them, and acquiring Mikko Rantanen could fit that bill. And you hear the talk about Simon Nemec and his status. I wonder if that would be a piece the Hurricanes would be interested in. I know they have Nikishin coming over from Russia, so maybe they don't necessarily need a defenseman, but I just wonder if the Devils can maybe reach out and check on Rantanen, because other than Rantanen, and if Nelson's not on the block, I look at it and go, what forwards can the Devils acquire that would really help them or move the needle? And I struggle to find a guy that's really, really going to move the needle. So if I'm Fitzgerald, I at least inquire about Rantanen, but needless to say, I think he needs to get somebody to give that top 6 a boost. So it's a round for sure.
The guy that I'd be looking at, and I think they've been linked to for a while, have been Brock Besser out of Vancouver.
Yeah,
but the problem is Vancouver's in a dilemma because they need him too, because they're right in the thick of things for wild card 2 in the Western Conference. Yeah. So that'd be kind of throwing in the white flag, and then you potentially lose Miller, Besser, and Pedersen. Yeah, that management there, you better be getting something back if you're losing all 3 of those guys via trade. Rantanen's a great idea, but again, let's just hypothetical fantasy hockey for a minute. Devils trade for him, and then he signs an extension in New Jersey. Now Carolina has to see him for 8 more seasons. Mm-hmm. But it would be a great ad. And similar to me, if they don't address it now, and Marner does get to July 1st, I wonder if Tom Fitzgerald takes a run at Mitch Marner.
Yeah, I think he will. I certainly think he will. Same 2 guys I mentioned for the Islanders.
Yeah, right,
Marner and Ehlers.
Yeah. Exactly. So I definitely think they're making a move.
Yeah, I think that they're going to have to make a move for somebody. I'm trying to figure out a name that's on there. Jim, I know you've heard a lot about the Brad Marchand type of thing, that they're like, oh, if the Devils could get Brad Marchand, but they'd probably have to make sure Palat's in that deal.
Yes, exactly.
I'm a little bit more stunned looking at some of these numbers that, I mean, Stefan Nason, 19 goals. Okay, he's having a good season, but you got a guy like Dawson Mercer, who he looked like he was going to explode 2 years ago. You kind of want more production out of him. Jesper Bratt, 68 points. Him and Hughes are tied for the most on the team. Because I think the Metro can be had, and I think the Devils could do it. They got to just look at the trade board, see what they could get. Mikko Rantanen's a pipe dream because Carolina ain't sending him over there. That's just not happening. And especially that they don't want to send him there and then see him in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Or sorry, a month after that in a 7-game series.
But he would be a great addition for a guy like Jack Hughes because it would be similar to like McKinnon and Rantanen. They could make some magic work there, I think. I mean, it'd be again a hypothetical land. I don't see it happening. I saw another name like for their bottom 6 would be Scott Lawton. I'm not sure if Philadelphia would really want to trade Lawton to a divisional opponent either. I'm just not sure about that one. But Jake Evans is a nice fit down in the bottom. But again, they need more help up front because they just can't score. It's great. You score 5 one night. The next night, you get 1 or 2. Like, that's the problem.
What do you think about this one over here?
I like Tuck. Alex Tuck's a great. I mean, I think he can be had, and I think Mercer could do it. You might be able to. Look, I'm not saying this could happen part of the trade discussions, but hey, with Bo Byram, hey, maybe that's a guy you send in a package with Nemec and Mercer up to Buffalo. I don't know. Like, again, I'm just throwing this is stuff I'm not hearing, but you throw it out there.
Yeah.
I mean, you could get. I mean, Alex Tuck's there. That's a good ad.
Well, there's one guy that we always hear in trade talk. I'll get to him in a second. But first, let's go over to the Atlantic Division and let's look at the wild card standings, guys. You have Detroit with 66, Columbus with 64, Ottawa, the Rangers, and Boston all tied at 62, Philadelphia, Montreal 59, and the Islanders all the way back at 57. But the Blue Jackets and the Red Wings are going to host an outdoor game at Ohio Stadium, home of the Ohio State Buckeyes, the Horseshoe. And it's funny, by the way, because this time the colors of each team are switched, that Ohio's the one wearing blue and Detroit's the one wearing red. But Jim, I'll go to you first. The Blue Jackets Red Wings game will be one of the most critical outdoor games ever. And by critical, of course, I mean that it's of importance.
Round. Yeah, absolutely. Because the winner of the game usually they project better. The loser of the game, it goes the other way. They don't play as well coming off that high, right? Like you see the winners take that momentum from those outdoor games and they bring it to the rest of their games, especially this late in the season, right before the trade deadline. Got about a little bit over a month left in the season. Like, this is really important. And if one of those teams lose because they're in the wild card mix right now, and it sends their season the other way, you're going to look back and say, oh, I didn't get those 2 critical points. And to me, I think, it's for Columbus, what they've done this year, all the adversity they've gone through, to have this game, to have this importance on this game. Because at the beginning of the year, we're like, oh, Columbus and Detroit outdoor game. What's that?
Yeah.
Now you look at it, you say, woo, this is a big 2 points right here. So I go round here.
Anthony?
Yeah, I'm gonna go round. Not necessarily just because, in the sense it's the most critical outdoor game ever. Because there've been so many, and I mean, I'd really have to go back and look at all the matchups and see where the teams were. So, I'm just saying round in the sense of it's just an important game in general. Forget about it being outside. It's just the Atlantic is so close right now. I mean, you have the Senators at 62 points trailing these teams right, breathing down their necks. So, this is an important game for both these teams and the Atlantic Division. So, even the Bruins are involved there trying to catch these teams. So, I think it's going to be an intense hockey game, being the playoff implications, and then you have it outside on top of that, and it's Ohio versus Michigan, and you have the parallels between the football rivalry between Michigan University and Ohio State. So, I think it's going to be a great game. They have plans to do a lot of honoring of the Gaudreaux, so that's going to be special too. So, I actually highly interested in watching the game. So, and Jim said, whoever wins, maybe that gives them more momentum, and they start to pull away. So, it's around.
You stole a lot of my thunder on that answer, Anthony, because you've got the teams that are trailing those guys that kind of want that inspiration. My wife constantly tells me that there's an angel trying to get Columbus into the playoffs in Johnny Gaudreau, and they're trying to do this for him. He's their inspiration. I'm buying around on this, though, guys, because it's not only just going to be important for Columbus. We're focused on Columbus, but you got Steve Yzerman, who's trying to basically do whatever he can to will Detroit into the playoffs for the first time in, 7 years or 8 years? Dylan Larkin played in the playoffs his first year with the Red Wings, never since. So, and he played great in the Four Nations. So he's definitely going to be trying to be inspired to play another playoff game. This is, if I recall correctly, this is the closest matchup this late in the season for an outdoor game. There's been other of them. They're usually like cross conference or something like this. This one is two divisional opponents. I can't wait to see it. I think it's going to be a great game, and I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. The NHL needs another home run. They've already had that with the Four Nations. Let's see what else they could get. Because also, speaking of Steve Yzerman, he sent goalie Ville Husso to Anaheim, which made us speculate about a player that's always being batted around in trade rumors. Anthony, John Gibson will finally be traded out of Anaheim.
Future Hurricane. No, I think it's around. I think Gibson's finally gone. I think, the future is with the Stahl and goal there. So I think it only makes sense for the Ducks to finally move Gibson. And there's certainly going to be suitors. And Jess mentioned the Hurricanes. I think they need a goaltender. So that certainly could be an option. I believe that, Gibson has been a good soldier in Anaheim. He's endured a lot of rebuilding years, and I think they're going to finally reward him and move him to a contender and get him a chance to play playoff hockey again. So, it's around. I would be surprised if Pat Verbeek held on to him once again.
Jim, is this finally the year John Gibson says goodbye?
The way he's talking, it should be.
Yeah.
He's been talking about I'm gonna let it be up to my agent. I want to be on a contender. I want to win. But then he says, "Well, Anaheim's kind of close. We're close. We got the pieces." As much as I want to say round, I'm gonna go beer because I'm not sure who's available. What team would want him with his injury history? And Edmonton should want them. Carolina should want him. But outside of that, who else is going to be it? What's the other market for John Gibson? Toronto has their goaltending set. He was always linked there. He's where else is he going? And Edmonton needs a goaltender. It should happen. Will it? Let's see if Pat Verbeek can get his price.
Well, I mean, he's got 2 more years at $6.4 million because after all, $6.4 million, 2 years and a modified no trade clause is a smart deal to hand a goaltender. That's at his prime. You certainly don't want to pay him $11.5 million maybe next year and give him a full no trade for the rest of his life. But there are teams that still might be interested. Look, I understand Anthony Stolarz is still putting up great numbers in Toronto. I'm sorry. I'll believe that when I see it. And the same thing is true about this trade. I'm going to put up the angry shot glass, call it a shot, and say, until they give me the notice that says on the bottom line, John Gibson has been acquired by X team, nope.
Not yet.
I mean, Jacob Chikrin went on for eons. Jack Eichel went on for eons and was in the headlines every single day. This time around, you know what? I just call me when it's done, because that's all I want to see. And just figure out from there.
So real quick before you move on, not on this topic, but I was just looking at the outdoor game history on NHL. The Rangers and Islanders played one last year. We all forget the Stadium Series. I mean, it's not as late. It was February. It's about a week ago this time last year. Went to overtime. So that was kind of a critical game for both.
It was, yeah.
It was, but I think at the time the Rangers were still in. I think the Rangers were in first place at the time.
I mean, it wasn't this close in the standings, but the Islanders definitely needed those points.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, they did. But then you get other ones. You can go back to 2012.
It was all cross credit.
Right, and in 2012, I mean, I know Rangers and Flyers, they were number 1 and number 2 in the NHL at the time. Yeah. But that's a game in January between teams that are that high.
Exactly.
So, I mean. But they've been doing a lot of late games. Like they had Carolina, that was a late game a couple years ago. And a guy that played in that game was Marty Necas, who you look at his numbers with Colorado, 10 games, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. He is looking good. Jim, I'll ask you this. Colorado will extend Marty Necas this summer.
If they were smart, they do it. I'm gonna go beer here. I think it may not be July 1st, but it could be later on that they could get him.
Yeah, it's the only reason why I'm using the term this summer and not July 1st. Exactly. Anthony, Marty Necas, long-term in Colorado.
I don't know. I mean, he's got the 1 year left on his deal. Obviously, short sample size so far with him. Granted, it's been good. I don't know if it's going to be like a pressing need. I don't know if it's going to be number 1 on their list. I think there's other areas they might look at. But, I mean, yeah, I certainly think they envision him as part of the long-term future. I just don't know if they're really going to make it a rush to do it. But I would be surprised if, this time next year he's still unsigned. But so with that said, I'll go beer.
And let's get that beer right there. And it's going to come back off and right back up there. Because, look, Necas is playing great. I know he's loving life right now, being with Nate McKinnon. And he looks like he could play this game. The up-tempo game that they're playing, I should say. He's making 6.5 right now. I wonder what the price tag in his mind at the moment. That would then lead me to think, let's say if he says, I'll bet on myself, I'll start next season, because he still has another year on that contract and before he goes to the UFA status. And you look at what Rantanen was able to do and get 100 points. Maybe if Nate just went to 100 points, maybe he's talking about double digits AAV and maybe even beyond that. So I think it's Colorado should try to get it done. I think they are going to make an attempt at it. I just wonder how far apart those numbers are and how much he likes it. I think if you're Marty Necas, though, either road you can go down. And the great part is right now he has options, which it didn't seem like he had those options in Carolina for a while. And guys, what's your favorite? Well, I'll ask you what your favorite hockey movies are in a minute, but did you know that Slapshot, starring Paul Newman, debuted 48 years ago yesterday?
Peter Newman?
Yeah, 48 years ago.
His name's
Paul Newman. Yeah, it's Paul Newman.
Oh,
no, Peter. Anthony.
It's Paul Newman.
Yeah, Paul Newman. Jeez. Actually, there is a Peter Newman. Anyway,
it's Paul Newman.
It is Paul. Of course, it's Paul Newman. All right, so we'll try that intro again for editing purposes. Slapshot, starring Paul Newman, debuted 48 years ago yesterday. Anthony, I'll start with you. Slapshot is the greatest hockey movie of all time.
Well, that's a tough one.
Oof. Oh, and I'm going to go into the blind rankings with you in a minute.
I mean, you got Slapshot, you got Youngblood, you got, which by the way I think is underrated. You got Mystery Alaska. honestly, I think my favorite is, and actually I just reminded here about the whole Ducks movies. I mean, I loved those when I was a kid. But I'm gonna go Miracle. I love Miracle. I thought Kurt Russell did a fabulous job as Herb Brooks. It gets me just absolutely fired up every time I watch it. There's so many good quotes, one-liners in that movie. You know, it looks like a bunch of monkeys humping a football when they're fighting, and you know, it's just so great. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Miracle, but I mean, I do think it's subjective. It's up for discussion, so I'll go Beer.
Jim?
I mean, it is subjective. It's up for debate. There are a lot of good choices. There's, to me, no wrong answer. But to me, in my book, I'm going round. I think it is the greatest hockey movie of all time. Just the one-liners, the lines that they come out with. Owns the Chiefs. Guys want to get traded. The whole how to explain hockey on that one scene, what hooking is, what slashing is, the reaction of the host. That's just great. The whole movie is great. The Hanson brothers, you know, putting on the foil, you know, the referee going up to the guys listening to the anthem, you know, I'm listening to that song. like that's just so great. So to me, but again, I don't know, you know, maybe there might be a wrong answer here and there, but if you're talking about Mystery Alaska, Mighty Ducks, Miracle, Slapshot, movies like that, there's no wrong answer, but to me, it's the greatest hockey movie of all time.
I am a junkie for the 1980 Olympic team. I have made this known for a long, long time. Behind me is Mike Ruzioni in the starting lineup that I got years ago. Red Army, great documentary.
Great documentary.
I actually auditioned for the movie Miracle because I was starting to try to dabble with acting again.
Did you really?
I didn't know it was Miracle. I knew they gave out sample sides. I didn't know what it was for. And then eventually I realized I was reading the scene of Get Your Gear Back On, go back out there. I was terrible. It was before I went back and took classes again.
Wait, whose part were you auditioning for?
That was Robbie McClanahan.
Rob McClanahan. I read for Rob McClanahan.
That's great.
Yeah, that would have been nice, but so I gotta go. I have to go Beer on this, and it's not because of Slapshot, because my goodness, when I watched that movie on every single road trip with the junior team I used to play on, we used to always play Slapshot. We used to play Happy Gilmore. We used to play so many great movies, and there was always Slapshot and Happy Gilmore all the time, and I just, and you're talking about great quotes. I still love you can't put a bounty on a player. I just did.
That's such a great line. That's such a great line. Paul
Newman, just so cool in that movie. You can't say enough on that. All right, guys, that's the end of Big Apple Hockey's Bar Talk. We gauged our confidence on NHL topics based on our choice of drink. And let's do some blind ranking. Anthony, I only did one blind ranking, so I'll let you do the other two for me and Jim. This one's for you.
Okay.
All right. And then we're going right back to blind ranking hockey movies. Okay. So we'll start with, obviously, your number one is going to be Miracle, right?
Yep.
All right. D2, The Mighty Ducks.
3.
Youngblood.
2.
Slapshot 2.
5.
And Mystery Alaska.
4.
All right. So Mystery Alaska 4. And I don't know if you guys, if the mic picked it up.
I heard somebody yell, I love Mystery Alaska.
Yeah, that's my wife all the way from the other room.
That's pretty. I gotta give you, Mark. That's pretty. It's pretty funny.
I was hoping to try to trip you up with Slapshot 2, but I mean,
why is that?
Yeah,
Well,
that movie doesn't exist.
I know. I was hoping. Well, I can name the lead in that. That was Stephen Baldwin. Yeah, Goon's a good one that could always go through. I would keep on talking with Willie Credia, who's in our comments right now, that we need to get together and do a hockey movies video, if not a couple of them. And I just haven't. I still keep going back and forth with that because I'd love to do that. So Anthony, do you have any blind rankings for me or Jim?
Yeah, I can do some blind rankings.
Okay.
I'll start with Jim. I'll just keep it simple. Top 5 New Jersey Devils.
Okay.
All right. Jason Arnott.
Oh. I'll go 2.
Alexander McGillney.
Wow. Dude, I love McGillney. Even though he wasn't there that long, I love McGillney. Great player, by the way. Should be
Huge
in the
for
Hall
that
of
cup
Fame.
run.
Oh, absolutely. Both cup runs, but they didn't win in 01. I'll go 3 here for McGillney.
Brian Ralston.
Man. All right. Well, depends on who's left. I'll go 4 for Ralston. I always liked Ralston as a player.
Yeah, he was I
Underrated on that first cup run.
Yeah. Alexander Seamack.
5 down to 5. Down to 5. Bye.
And Martin Brodeur.
Number 1. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why I left that spot open. I had a feeling one of the good ones was coming.
You know, you can't trust Anthony on that. Trust me. He
I
got me good last week.
I know. Well, once he said Alexander Seamack, I'm like, all right, well, if he says like Kurt Muller or Patrick Sundstrom, I can justify them putting like 1.
You can't trust him fully. He'll throw out Corey Schwab out of nowhere like that.
Dude, Corey Schwab, what a goalie.
All right, Mark. You ready?
All right, Anthony.
I'm gonna give you top 5 Rangers.
Okay.
Bernie Nichols.
Okay. Now, do I rank Bernie Nichols for what he did for the Rangers or for what he became because he ended up being traded for Mark Messier? I'm gonna go with 4.
4, huh?
Yeah. I'll be brave. I'll say 4.
I'm surprised you're going Nichols at 4.
I know there's gonna be like a Jeff Toms or something from
Right. Roman Nador.
Oh man.
What was his nickname again? Was the Nigerian?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't want to say that was the Nigerian assassin. I think it was something else. It was maybe the Nigerian warrior. I think they called him. And Roman Endor, he was actually, I think he scored a goal with the Rangers too. But I got to put him at 5.
Dale Purinton.
I knew I should have put Bernie Nichols higher. Dale Purinton at 3. And Dale Purinton had his name tattooed on his back, I believe, just like it was on a jersey. Or that might be an old wives' tale.
You know what?
Or that might be an old wives' tale.
Ryan Holloweg.
Anthony, there are very few Rangers that get that visceral response that I have for Ryan Holloweg. Because whenever I think about Ryan Holloweg, I always think of one step closer to him just taking a bad penalty and knocking the Rangers out of the playoffs, sort of like he did against the Pittsburgh Penguins when the Rangers came back, tied the game, and then Evgeny Malkin went ahead game 3. This was 2008. But to answer your question, Ryan Holloweg, 2.
This is such a nest.
Because I'm waiting for number 1.
Darius Kasparaitis.
Funny story about Kasparaitis at number 1, by the way, because it's the only one left. The day he signed with the New York Rangers, my friend Russ, who was a huge Darius Kasparaitis fan, Islander fan, called me up and he's screaming, "The Rangers got Kaspa." I'm yelling louder at him that I can't believe the Rangers signed Kasper. Yeah. falling for the range for that one. But here's the great thing that he did contribute to the New York Rangers. He got injured, and then also the Bobby Granger commercial was pretty good too. When he got injured, the Rangers called up Dan Girardi, and the Rangers never sent him back down.
By the way, FYI, fun fact: Darius Kasparaitis was training with Alexander Ovechkin over the break, or Ovechkin was training with Kasparaitis down in Florida.
Oh, also fun fact: Darius Kasparaitis, hell of an interview.
Yeah,
we had him in our first summer, I believe. Anthony was able to book him.
Mark, I got I got one more for you, and it's gonna be. I always screw you and do jokes. I'm gonna be a serious one for you.
Okay, all right. We'll get to the pick'ems in 1 second.
And because it's trade deadline time, so I'm gonna just do, in your opinion, 5. Rank this in biggest trades 1 to 5. Okay.
Okay.
All right. The Ryan Smith to the Islanders trade.
I'm only putting it at 5 because he did help him get the playoffs, but then he left right afterwards. He actually was pretty good for them. And the Islanders didn't give up that much in the end because Robert Nielsen wasn't really that great, and the draft picks I don't think became anything.
Now I'm surprised you put that at 5 only because that was a huge shock to the whole hockey world. He was
tremendous shock.
He was traded like $259, if I remember correctly. It was definitely so. I think you underrated that one, but we'll go forward here. Adam Larson for Taylor Hall.
That was at least an MVP candidate. So I'll go to 3 on that one right now. And then Taylor Hall, his trades out in New Jersey were good. Adam Larson ended up finding himself really going to Seattle after that. So
Edmonton, he was really good with Edmonton until he got hurt.
Yeah.
That was a win-win trade for both teams.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mike Richards to the LA Kings.
That's a big one. But I am going to put it down a little bit lower at 4, only because I think it was when Jeff Carter got there that really solidified. And Jeff Carter, I believe it was Jeff Carter for Jack Johnson, and that really solidified the Kings.
The trade last year that sent Tomas Hertl to the Vegas Golden Knights.
I'm still in shock about that one. When you announced that, my jaw dropped. And I still have the short that says that's on here. You guys can look at that. I'm going to put that at 2. I think you got one more trade there for me. And don't forget, Tomas Hertl is still on Vegas right now. And a big trade for San Jose.
Yeah, he was. Mark Stone to Vegas.
Hands down, number 1. He's probably, you could have argued him for Conn Smythe the year that they won it. And Marchessault, great. Jack Eichel, great. But Mark Stone, not only is he valuable on the ice, especially in the playoffs, he's also valuable because his back allows him to go on LTIR, so Vegas can sign anyone that they want or trade for anyone that they want and never have to worry about the damn salary cap ever.
Well, it's this year. It won't be Mark Stone. It'll be Shea Theodore.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the injury at the Four Nations. Which actually, guys, we're gonna do a quick pick'em right here, and then we'll get to Puckdoku, and then I am off to dinner. So the pick'em that we usually do, we'll have like a couple options. Although I did have one open-ended question at the very end, Jim. And I'm just trying to stall for 1 second for Anthony. What did you do, by the way, for the Four Nations final?
I was there. I was there for the whole tournament.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was there for the whole tournament. Like, I covered every game. It was. I was tired. Like, I'll be honest. I was tired.
What were your thoughts when it came to that opening of USA Canada?
Oh, awesome! What a great start. I mean, I know there are some people that, again, people complain for complaining's sake, but that's what the 3 fights in 9 seconds is what got this sport attention, and that this attention in it deserved. And USA Canada being a final is exactly what that NHL wanted out of this tournament. I'm not saying USA Sweden or whatever the final would have been. It still would have been good hockey. But you had USA Canada in the final. That's what everybody wanted.
Yeah. And also just to add on to that, was there cheering in the press box?
I mean, there was cheering Saturday night in Montreal when those fights started. I mean, everybody was out of their seat. I mean, we're all standing, and it was crazy. Like, people were just like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, what's going on? Like, people were like, oh, my God. Like, this is awesome. Like, we're like, because you didn't expect it. Like, you didn't expect it. And when the first set of gloves went, and Brady got Benny off the bench, Sam Bennett, they're ready to rock and roll. And then the fact that JT Miller was throwing hands with Parenko, I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's do it. That was fun.
And to think it's been 11 years since a best on bet, or sorry, 9 years since it's 2016. I forget sometimes about the 2016 World Cup because US was so terrible.
I say 11 because the real best on best was the Olympics that in 2014. 2016 wasn't a true World Cup of hockey because you had Team North America and Team Europe. You didn't really have the hockey nations. But I'll just be right back. I just have to get my charger plug in. I'll be right back.
Okay. So in that case, now I'll stall for a second on that one, Anthony. Actually, since we got because we're gonna do a quick Puckdoku, like we said. I think I might be getting sushi tonight, Anthony. I'm thinking about getting sushi.
Can't go wrong with sushi. I love a good sushi.
Yeah. Because these are all going to be pick'ems from the Four Nations tournament. Anthony, what did you do that night?
What?
The final.
It was the night before I left for Florida, so I was just kind of, I got all packed, and I just watched the game and went to sleep after. We had to be up at like 3:45, so I wasn't very happy that I went longer because it kept me up longer. But yeah, that's what I just kind of stayed home and watched the game.
I think it would have been interesting if that went to 5 overtimes.
I wouldn't have been able to do it.
I know, but that's what they said. They're treating it like a playoff game.
Yeah. Here
it is. Try to kill another second for Jim. Actually, Ant, here, let's run this really fast. How fast can you go? We'll do it.
Fast.
We could go a quick Puckdoku just for that one, the traditional one. I think there's some good questions on here. All right, so, all right, here we go. We got Devils, Sharks, and Calgary on the top. Rangers, Islanders, and a team captain on the y-axis. We got Jim back. All right, we got Jim back. We'll do the Puckdoku in a minute. All right. So Jim, here we go. We're gonna do pick'ems. This is all based on the Four Nations. All right, Anthony, start with you on this one. Better Canadian game winner: Crosby in Vancouver or McDavid, Four Nations?
I mean, the goal itself, like McDavid's shot was nicer. I mean, the Crosby shot kind of flubbed it a little bit, and I think that's what fooled Ryan Miller. But because that was the actual Olympics, and this was just the Four Nations tournament, Olympics means more, so I'll go Crosby. But the actual shot itself, the better goal is McDavid.
Jim.
Yeah, I agree with Anthony. I think the better shot was McDavid, but the Crosby's goal had more meaning to it. It was Canada's first Olympic gold medal since 2002. They had kind of not played well in 2006, lost in Torino. But McDavid's shot was unbelievable. I mean, wide open in the slot, right over Hellebuck's glove. But Crosby's goal was much better, bigger Canadian goal.
Yeah, I got to go with that for the setting. 2010 Olympics, it was amazing. But,
in Canada, Vancouver, yeah.
And it was the biggest player in the game on the biggest stage. It was huge, and he rose to the occasion. More to blame for that McDavid goal: Adam Fox or Austin Matthews? Jim.
Austin Matthews for sure. That's his guy. I'm surprised you didn't say Jack Hughes on there too, because both Matthews and Hughes are the ones that or really they blew the assignment, but it's bigger for Matthews because that's his guy. He just let McDavid just camp out in a slot. I think Fox was doing his job in the corner on Marner, and Matthews just lost his assignment off the faceoff, and that's all totally on Austin Matthews.
Anthony.
Jim said it best when he mentioned Hughes, because Hughes has some culpability in that too, because he's a center himself. So he kind of should have known better. Like, I know I'm playing the wing right now, but when he saw Matthews blow his assignment, he should have recognized as a center that McDavid was more of a danger than of Hughes staying on his guy at the point. He should have then covered for Matthews. But it's certainly Austin Matthews when going between Fox and him. He's the center. That was his guy. And then lastly, the third player on the ice there was Brock Nelson. So USA had 3 centers on the ice. They all play center for their teams. And they all 3 of them just let McDavid wide open in the slot. So poor defensive awareness all around.
It's amazing how great of a game Austin Matthews had, and he probably should have delivered the winner. Just couldn't get it high enough on Jordan Binnington.
3 times he should have delivered the winner.
Yeah, and look, there are a couple times he had pucks labeled for the back of the net, and Binnington stopped it.
It's important to note that was also BS icing. Jack Hughes beat that out. That should not have been an icing call. So yes,
agreed on that one as well.
Nelson did ice the puck, but that shouldn't have been called to begin with.
No.
Rangers Twitter lit up, blaming Adam Fox for it. Yeah, he took a bit of a longer route to get there. Because of that, Marner was open for a second at the corner. Matthews starts to go over to him, and then realized as soon as Marner let the pass go, and tried to get back and tried to deflect it. He couldn't. I don't blame Hughes as much as everyone else does. I know everybody's kind of on it, but I mean, that's not really what I'm not thinking about him on that one. Favorite Tkachuk brother, Anthony?
Neither. You're missing Daniel. You remember that?
Okay.
Remember that guy?
Great answer.
He spelt it differently, but yeah. No, I'm gonna. This is tough. I love them both. I don't know. I'm gonna go Matthew just with a slight edge. But I mean, that's just me splitting hairs. I think they're both great players. Like we said, great personalities. They're both winners. They're guys you want to have on your team. They play the game the right way, greasy, but also skilled. Man, those 2 franchises are both lucky to have them. But I'll say Matthew for no other reason, just a toss up.
All right, and sorry, Jim, your favorite Tkachuk brother?
Man, it's so tough, right? Both guys have great personalities. I'll be different. I'll just say Brady slightly, just because in the interview when they were talking about like stuff, he gave Matthew a little tap on the leg to be like, hey, your turn to answer. But guys have great personalities. The whole family's great. Even Big Walt. Shout out to him. But I'll say Brady, but it's so hard to choose because both guys are so great.
By the way, I'm gonna go with Matthew, but I'm thinking I brought this up a lot the last couple weeks. That interview that Keith Tkachuk did right after the Nagano Olympics when they got off the ice, and it wasn't positive to say the least. We wasted our time here, and since then, I think the idea of playing for your country really is in their heads. And they get it, and they did a great job. There was so many Mighty Duck 2 memes that came out of that, so they were everywhere. Even though I should pick the younger brother, I went with Matthew. Jim, what word sums up how you felt at the end of the 4 Nations?
Awesome. It was great. I loved every minute of that tournament. I thought the hockey was great. So I'm going to go awesome. The NHL did a great job. Win for the NHL. Win for the sport of hockey because everybody in the United States is finally talking about it.
Anthony?
Reinvigorating. I think it.
Wow.
I think it kind of got a lot of casual fans really maybe into hockey again. Stirred up those kind of good feelings about the game, and how fun and how competitive it really is. It's like no other sport in the world. Got eyes on hockey again, and hopefully it just continues.
I'll go with optimistic because USA has been knocking on the door for a long time, and now it looks like maybe another gold is actually going to happen in the near future. Whether or not they can beat Canada, that's going to be up to them. But I can tell you one thing, Patrick Roy walking through that door, neither's Roberto Luongo, neither's Martin Brodeur, and their goaltending prospects still don't look all that great. Maybe a longer tournament, maybe that exposes Jordan Binnington a little bit more, or even, I don't know, probably Logan Thompson would be in the mix for the next one. But I think the reinvigorating is a good one because it did kind of feel like it was a reinvigorating type of tournament. All right, guys, let's do very quick Puckdokus because got dinner that's coming in my near future. Jim, we have on the top Jersey, San Jose, Calgary for the Y-axis, Islanders, Rangers, and team captain. Mr. LaRocco, you want to start us off?
With which one?
Well, whichever one you want to go with.
Well, I'll start with Islanders, Devils, being Jim's two teams.
Mm-hmm.
I'll pick a player that played for both franchises. It's going to be a low uniqueness score, and that's Mike Motto.
Oh wow! What a name!
Mike Motto it is, and he is a 0.7. Jim.
Wow.
You know what? I'm going to choose one a little bit off the board over here. Go to the San Jose Sharks, and I'm going to take Nicholas Sundstrom.
I think that's going to be high on the percentage mark, you silly man. But
well, I could always do Brian Mullen too, but I think he's not going to. I think he's going to be higher on there. Let's see where we go. Nicholas Sundstrom. He's a 1%er.
Could have told you that.
Yeah, well, I could have done Brian Mullen, I guess. We'll find that out later.
Did Jim freeze?
Hold on, did he? I think he did, because I don't think anybody can hold that pose forever.
Yeah.
All right, Anthony, Rangers and Devil.
I'm going to say you can use Sergei Nemchinov. You could use Vladimir Malikov.
I thought about Joe Sorella.
Joe Sorella?
Let's go Vlad Malikov. 0.9%. Okay. Rangers in Calgary. Nigel Dawes.
Yeah.
How is he 1%?
You cranking out 1%ers, man. You gotta.
Jeez. All right, Islanders and San Jose Shark.
Andy Sutton.
Andy Sutton. All right, let's go. Andy Sutton. Right there. Boom. 0.7. Nice work, Ant. Calgary Flames and the New York Islander.
It's a lot. Steve Conroy, Blake Como.
Blake Como is going to be a 1%er.
John Tonelli. Adrian O'Coin.
Adrian O'Coin would be high too.
Then use Steve Conroy.
I like Steve Conroy.
Steve Conroy.
Steve Conroy.
Yes. Nope. Conroy with a K.
That's why I haven't gotten it right. Conroy. Oh, he's a 1%er, but he's a technically.
No, he's 1.0. Different than
1.0. That means you have a little bit of flexibility with that. All right. A San Jose captain.
So these last three are going to be obviously it's going to be hard to get low percentages. Captain for the San Jose Sharks. I mean Owen Nolan, but that will be high. Obviously Joe Thornton will be the highest. Patrick Marleau will be really high.
Kelly Kissio.
Trying to think of the earliest versions of the Sharks. Who? Wait, was Kelly Kissio the original Sharks captain?
Yes, he was.
He was.
Yeah. So we'll go Kelly. We'll go Kissio.
No, hold on. Don't do anything hasty.
Time's a ticking. I got dinner I got to go get.
Kelly Kissio, I'm not really sure if he.
He should have been their original captain.
Was Sandis Ozolinsh ever a Sharks captain?
I don't think he was ever a Sharks captain, but
who's Mike Ricci?
Mike Ricci. Okay,
Yes.
we'll go Mike Ricci. So Mike Ricci, 1%.
I'll take
team captain, New Jersey Devils. I'm gonna go Bruce Driver. He's another 1%er, Anthony.
I mean that for a team captain one, that's not bad.
I feel like Calgary, we should have this one.
Well, I mean, I know like Craig Conroy was a captain.
Gary Roberts, I believe, was a captain at one point.
I'm not sure about Gary Roberts.
It was either Roberts or Neuendijk.
Oh, Brad McCrimmon.
Okay. I always remember him as a Detroit Red Wing. All right, so we had a 4. All right.
Look, click the Sharks captain one.
Sharks captain, I think you might have the lowest one. Let's figure the stats. Mike Ricci was one that I didn't think of. Kelly Kissio would have been not on there at all. He's not the captain?
Guess not. Alan McCauley and Gary Emmons. I never even heard of Gary Emmons.
Oh, I know why Kelly Kissio wasn't the captain. Thank God we didn't do it. Doug Wilson was on there. You make Doug Wilson their captain. All right.
Click the Flames captains.
Flames captain, the lowest one. Tim Hunter. Keith McCreary. Brad Marsh. That was a good one. Pat Quinn. For the Devils captains, the lowest one, I'd say, never mind. Rob Ramage. Mel Bridgman was one I kind of thought
Rob Ramage would have been one that we should have got.
Yeah.
But you know what? Actually, I think he was only captain when there were the Rockies.
Yeah, so that's what the hard part is. Or the Scouts was another one. All right.
Sorry, Chrono.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna have to cut it off there, guys. Because
question for you before we go. We're 9 days from the trade deadline. What's your prediction for when like the first significant trade happens here? Like how many more days? What's your prediction time?
See, Anthony, I don't know what's going to happen because we sort of started like transitioning for the last 3-4 trade deadlines that it becomes more like a week of doing trade deadlines.
Which is why I'm surprised there haven't been really that many at this point with usually 9 days to the deadline. Usually there's already been a couple of big ones. Haven't seen any yet.
Yeah, and so that makes me think that I think more is going to happen later. So I'm going to say the first domino to fall, I think it's going to happen a little bit later in the week. I think you might see Wednesday like some big guy get moved, and
Oh, that's real late.
that's
talking
very
just
late.
2 days before the deadline.
Yeah, 2 days before the deadline, and because I don't see the guy that's itching to get out of there. And one of the more curious guys that I'm thinking of, and I think if something happens with him, it's going to happen at the deadline, and that's Elias Patterson.
You ready for mine?
Yeah. What do you think?
Because I like to be bold.
No, you.
I'm gonna say it's tomorrow. Again, I told you I like to be bold, and I think it's gonna be Seth Jones. I think he's going.
He expressed some frustration last night.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. So that's my guess. I think it's Seth Jones, and then Bruno predicts that Chris Kreider is going to be traded to the Boston Bruins on Friday.
Yeah. I think that would definitely be something he would welcome. I think that'd be something they'd kind of take on because they can use maybe another net front guy, but I do think it's going to happen. I think him to the Boston Bruins, either it's going to happen this week or it'll happen before the draft. It just makes too much sense. I wonder if there's a bidding war for Chris Kreider because when you're talking about a guy with that much talent in front of the net.
And if I'm wrong, we can just blame Bruno because it's his prediction, not mine.
No, you can't blame the Nugget, as my wife would say.
Do you want to ask our viewers who has better hair, Bruno or Mark Williams?
Oh, come on, obviously. Okay. Although his hair is quite fetching. Oh, I could already see that. I could already see that one backfiring on me. And as Alana is saying, Lou, sell everybody. Tom's saying it right here. I hate this team. I swear to God, there might be 5 guys on the team that are actually likable. And he's referring to the Rangers, not the Islanders.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's there's a lot. There's a lot of work both GMs have to do, especially in the case of Chris Drury. You want to be competitive, you want to make the playoffs, you want to actually win around, because look, if you're going to try to make the playoffs just to be sacrificial lamb to the Washington Capitals or the Florida Panthers, especially the Florida Panthers, then you better do some work, because I know everybody wants to cite the Bruins, Anthony. Look at what happened with the Bruins. They were one and done. The Panthers were built to beat the Bruins.
Yeah.
The Panthers went back to the drawing board in the offseason to beat the Bruins. Chris Drury is trying to do this on the fly. That's not going to happen. It's just not.
Yeah.
So,
no.
But guys, great show as always, because it's great doing this with you all. And we're going to have a lot more coverage. If anything is breaking, any major stuff, we'll be right back on here yet again. Thank you guys all for coming on, and thanks for watching us. And also, make sure you leave a like, and also make sure you recommend us to people.
Do you have anything? Do you have anything to say to Bruno?
Yeah. Give me Paul, Bruno. Give me Paul. Give me Paul. Yeah.
All right, Bruno, everybody.
All right. And I'll talk to you later.
See you later, guys.
Have a good one, guys.